So I was a little camera shy in my first video, but hi again, it's Mingzi, and in this video, I'm going to talk more in depth about the map viewer where we'll be doing most of our work in. Now before I start any mapping project, I like to ask myself some key questions, and the key questions are: why tell the story? What is the story? Who is going to see this map? What am I trying to prove with these analysis? I'm sure these are all questions that you ask yourself when you create any story or any data visualization. So it's not just for creating a map, but with a map telling a story, these are all important questions you should consider. In the demonstration for this video, I'm going to try to answer the question that's been on my mind. With COVID-19 pandemic changing many of our lives, we know that COVID-19 has a greater impact in the senior population. And because of that, it has limited their mobility in many ways. In fact, there are many organizations out there trying to help the communities of seniors. I want to know, are there enough food banks delivering food in the city of Toronto? For our question, we know that our study area is the city of Toronto. So I went to the City of Toronto Open Data site and thought it would be interested to focus our geography on the neighborhood of Toronto, which is a way to say that the level of detail of my map and the analysis in which it was going to be measured is based at the neighborhood level of Toronto. Now is a good time to go and sign in to your ArcGIS Online account and follow through with the video. And I recommend watching me do a particular step, pausing the video, and follow and repeat what I've done in the video. Make sure you mark down any questions you might have and we can discuss it later on. Going back to the story map, you can access the Open Data site in the story map link here. Click on it and go ahead and download the data as a shapefile and leave the projection as it is and hit download. Make sure you save it on a local drive you can find later on. Now go into your ArcGIS Online and click on the map page. Once again, we're in the map viewer where I briefly introduced you to in the last video. So let's bring in the City of Toronto shapefile. To do that, go into Add and notice the different options you get to bring in data onto a map. We're going to add a layer from File, and once you click on that, a window is going to pop up and tell you what file format is accepted. So here it says that a shapefile is accepted, but only if it's contained as a zip file. And that is because there are multiple files that makes up a shapefile. So let's go look for that file we have. I saved it on my desktop as a zip called neighborhood, and let's open it. Here it gives you several options. You can generalize your feature for web display or keep your original feature as it is. Generalizing would make for a quicker display of the map. So let's do that. Once the data is added in, you'll be immediately brought to a styling panel on the left here. Let's leave it as it is, and we have successfully brought in the Toronto neighborhood from the Open Data site. You will see that the content panel now have a brand new layer called Neighborhoods. This is what we call a layer. And the idea of layer comes from the overhead projector where content on transparent paper were stacked on top of each other. So for people who might not remember what overhead projector is, that's the thing down here in the corner. The concept is the same in a map viewer where you can have multiple layers on top of each other to illustrate a point. So ideally you would want multiple layers here. So after this quick history lesson, let's get back to mapping. The layer you bring in, this here being neighborhood, is a temporary file because you brought it in from your local computer. What you need to do is permanently save it onto your account. To do that, click on the three dots of More Details and Save Layer. Once you click on that, a window is going to pop up to ask for an official name for that layer. So let's rename this to Toronto Neighborhoods underscore your initials. So mine is MH. Give it a tag. So Toronto Neighborhood, comma, boundary, and hit enter. Once that is done, pick a file you want to save it as. Now remember the first folder I created in my first video? I'm just going to do that. Save it in that folder and hit create item so that everything is contained within that folder and your file and project will be organized. Now that you saved the version of the layer on your ArcGIS Online account, let's bring that layer in. To do that, go into Add, search for layers, and it would appear as the first one because that's the most recent layer you've added onto your account. Hit Add, go back, and now you see that your Toronto neighborhoods underscore your initials layer is shown. So now I can remove the temporary layer. And this is actually a good time to save your map. So to do that, go into the top bar and hit Save. Click on Save and give it a title. I'm going to say Toronto Neighborhood Map. Give it a tag, Neighborhood Maps, Toronto Boundaries, Demographic, Food Banks, hit Enter. And generally, I like to give it a summary. Toronto, a map of Toronto seniors and their proximity to food banks. Make sure I'm saving into the folder I want and hit Save Map. So now that everything is saved, let's say I made a mistake in the description or I forgot the description in my layer. You can edit that by going into the More Options button, go into Show Item Details, and it will bring you to the item page of this layer. Here I can hit Edit and give it a description. This layer is of the City of Toronto boundaries, neighborhood boundaries. And once I've saved it, notice that there are different options that I can view my data set. I can look at the data in the tabular format. I can look at it in a map format. And it tells you how many people have viewed this layer, as well as some settings that you can have in place. Going back to the Data tab, notice how the column names are not labeled correctly. So let's give each of these columns a name. To do that, click on the field here and click on a column name, or sometimes it's called a field name, and notice that we can't seem to be able to edit it. That's because I need to publish my layer first. So to do that, go into your overview, and inside the overview of the item, click on Publish. Publishing the layer means authorizing the data on the cloud as an item from your account. Once it's published, let's go back to the data page, go into Fields, click on a field, and change the name. Notice how there's a pen for me to edit the field names here. So I actually don't know what field 1 or field 2 means. I have to go back into the City of Toronto website, go into Data Features, and put in that name in the corresponding field. And in the magic of a demo, voila, I am done. So make sure you fill in all the field names here. Going back to the map, I need to re-add the new layer we just published. So let's expand this view here. Essentially, we didn't need to add the save layer onto the map. We can directly add in the published layer, but let's bring in that data that we just published. So we go into Add, search for layers, and it would be the first layer you generated. Look how it's a little confusing with the names. What should have been done is maybe changing the title of the name. So let's add this to Map. And now we have a duplicate layer. Notice if I toggle between the checkboxes, I can see the layer. When layers are added, it usually appears on the top layer. So if I close this or turn it off, remove it, can click around the map, and you notice that the name of those column fields we have just edited are now reflected in this pop-up. So this is the right layer we want. Let's save our map again. And when you save your map, be mindful of saving the map at an extent you want your viewer to see. For example, if I zoom in and hit save, and then I refresh my page, my map extent will start off where I last saved, not where I last left the map. Let's save it at the extent where I want to see all of Toronto's neighborhood. Once the map is saved, we have completed the process of bringing in data to a map. Let's quickly recap what we've done so far. We imported the shapefile and saved it as a layer. Once it was saved, it became a feature layer, and you can identify that in the Contents page. Next, we navigate to the Items page of the saved layer, and that can be accessed through the Map Viewer or the Content page. Once we were in the Items page, we published it. That way we can edit the column names or the field names, and then once we published it, it became a feature layer hosted or a hosted feature layer. The data side of things are now managed, and so we return to the Map Viewer. That is where we removed the feature layer and added our hosted feature layer, which was the layer we just published. Finally, we save the map at the extent we want. This is how you turn data into a map. So I hope you guys learned something, and see you in the next video where we add more context to the Toronto neighborhood boundary.